Hello, welcome to another Season 6 League of Legends guide by eGaming Television. Today, we're bringing you Vayne, who is a high-tier champion Hypercarry. If you have a tanky team and you need one single character to kill the whole team, you might want to pick up a Vayne. She has extremely high single target damage, as well as skills that allow her to destroy tanky targets. In this guide, we're going to cover her pros and cons, her masteries, runes, summoners, each of her abilities, ability leveling order, item build, and some gameplay tips. First, we're going to talk about Vayne's pros and cons, starting with her pros. The first one being she has very high single target damage. Vayne has extremely high single target damage when she reaches the mid to late game. With a solid build, she can easily dispatch squishy champions, as well as tanky ones when she gets to that late stage in the game. Another pro is that she can 1v1 most champions. Due to her extremely high single target damage, she is able to 1v1 most of them in the late game. This allows for split pushing if your team needs it as well, since nobody can 1v1 Vayne. Another benefit Vayne has is that she has a few built-in escapes. With both her Contempt and Tumble, Vayne has a few options for getting away from the enemy champion. This allows her to play a bit more aggressive later on when other AD carries could not. As strong as Vayne is, however, she does have a few cons as well, one being she has a very low auto attack range of 550. So Vayne has one of the lowest auto attack ranges of ranged champions. This means it can have a very hard early game if against long range opponents or champions you don't want to get near, such as Leona. As I've said, Vayne does have a very weak early game. She does not do much damage at low levels, and it can mean a difficulty in finding farm and winning duels versus the enemy duel lane. Because of this, Vayne usually finds herself very reliant on her support. You might want to make sure you're with a competent support if you're playing Vayne, so you're able to find as much farm as possible and get to the late game so you can carry your team. Next, we're going to cover Vayne's masteries, which are 18 ferocity and 12 resolve. With these masteries, you gain some armor pen, attack damage, and lifesteal. In the resolve tree, you end up getting some increased life, reduced damage, and some health regen to keep you in the lane as long as possible. For Vayne's runes, she takes the typical AD carry runes, which are 9 greater marks of attack damage, 9 greater glyphs of magic resist, 9 greater seals of armor, and 3 greater quintessences of attack speed. With these runes, you're gaining as much damage as possible, while also having the magic resist and armor, so you don't take an absurd amount of damage while in the lane phase. Vayne also takes the typical AD carry summoners, which are Flash and Heal. She takes Flash because it's used for chasing, escaping, repositioning, and many more things. Heal gives you both health and movement speed, which gives it more than just one use. It can be used for escaping and kiting, as well as to heal yourself or your team to save them. Next, we're going to discuss each of Vayne's abilities, starting with Night Hunter, which is her passive. So Vayne ruthlessly hunts evildoers. She gains 30 movement speed when moving towards nearby enemy champions. Some notes is that it gives extra chase potential. Keep in mind as well that you gain 3 times the movement speed when you are in Final Hour, which is your ultimate. Since your passive range is large, you can sometimes know when people are in the fog of war if you are gaining your passive. If you are moving upriver and you are gaining Night Hunter but don't see anybody, since it is a passive that gives you movement speed moving towards an enemy champion, you will automatically know that there is somebody ahead of you. Next, we're going to look at Vayne's Q, which is called Tumble. It's a short distance roll. The next basic attack within 7 seconds deals between 30 and 50% bonus physical damage, equal to between 30 and 50% of your total attack damage. This skill has a short cooldown and is excellent for adding extra damage, chasing, and dodging enemy skill shots. This skill also gives a small period of stealth when used in Final Hour. Use this to reposition or get away from the enemy champion when needed. Vayne's next skill is called Silver Bolts, which is her W. Every third consecutive attack or ability against an enemy deals an additional between 6 and 12% of the enemy's maximum health as true damage. It deals a maximum of 200 damage versus monsters, and a minimum of between 40 and 120 damage versus all other targets. Note as well that this is a passive ability and you do not need to activate it. This is what makes Vayne do such amazing single target damage. Max this ability first, and every third auto attack will cost your opponent a ton of health. Keep in mind you can auto attack, then tumble, then condemn for a quick 3 attack proc, as it does work on abilities as well. Vayne's last main ability is Condemn, which is her E. She fires a bolt that knocks back the target enemy and deals between 45 and 185 plus 50% bonus attack damage. Enemies that collide with Terran take between 45 and 185 plus 50% bonus attack damage as well, and are stunned for 1.5 seconds. Condemn is a great crowd control ability. Very few AD carries have any sort of CC, so this is a part of why Vayne is such a strong champion. However, use your Condemn wisely. This can be a great tool for finishing people off, but if you miscalculate the damage, you can also save somebody's life by pushing them out of danger. Vayne's last ability is Final Hour, which is her ultimate. When activated, you gain between 30 and 70 bonus attack damage for between 8 and 12 seconds. While active, Tumble grants invisibility for 1 second, and Night Hunter's bonus movement speed is increased to 90. This ability makes you hit harder, as well as makes you harder to get on top of. Make sure to use your Stealth Tumble to slip away from enemies and dodge their skills. A Vayne that is good at using Final Hour can be extremely frustrating to play against, as they cannot get to you and you will kill their entire team before they get on you. Now we're going to talk about Vayne's ability leveling order. You take your ultimate, which is Final Hour, whenever you're able to, meaning level 6, 11, and 16. Silver's Bolts, which is your W, is taken at level 3 and is your main leveling priority, so you take it at 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9. Your next priority is Tumble, which is your Q. You do, however, take this at level 1 though, as it is good for chasing and escaping. It is your second leveling priority. You take it at 1, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Your last skill and leveling priority is Condemn, which is your E. You do take this at level 2, however, as it is good for escaping as well as CCing your target. It is taken at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. Next, we will talk about Vayne's item build. You always start with Doran's Blade and a health pot. You get increased attack damage as well as a bit of lane sustain to keep there as long as possible. Next, we move into the core item build. Now keep in mind that Vayne has a lot of different items she can get and still carry the game really hard, so this is just one of many. First, we take a static shiv, followed by a rapid fire cannon. With these two items, you get a lot of movement speed, attack speed, and crit. You get really good use out of your silver bolts as well, and you can destroy targets insanely fast with just these two items. We follow this up with Berserker Greaves and an Infinity Edge. We then move on to a Death Dance, and then the Lord Dominic's Regards to get through champions with lots of armor. With this build, however, although you do a ton of damage, you do not have anything to help you survive, such as a Banshee's Veil, Guardian Angel, or Mercurial Scimitar. If you feel you're too squishy, you can always get one of these items in replace of another. A lot of Vaynes will still get Blade of the Ruined King first, and you can do this instead of getting a Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon if you need the lane sustain early on. Next, we're going to cover a few things that apply to every AD carry out there. The first being learn how to last hit. Last hitting is a big part of playing an AD carry. By properly last hitting, your lane will not push the enemy tower, which gives them a chance to freeze the lane on you. Last hitting means getting only the killing blow on a minion. No matter how much damage you do to a minion, you get the same amount of gold. Focus on only getting the last bit of damage on a minion to collect the gold and not push the lane. The next thing you need to know is when to push your lane. If the enemy duo lane goes for an objective or gank, either follow them if your team wishes to fight, or push the lane and try to get the tower down if possible. Sitting in the lane when the enemy dual lane is doing objectives can really hinder your team since you guys get nothing out of it. Another thing is learning how to orb walk. Orb walking is a technique which combines attacking and moving to stay in pursuit of an enemy. Start an auto attack, and when you see it in the air, begin walking and cancel the animation. Doing this allows you to get off an auto attack, but still keep moving as much as possible to track down your enemy. Vayne is also one of the easiest champions to orb walk on, since with your passive you get an extra 30% movement speed, so this is much easier to do. Another thing you have to learn as an AD carry is how to kite. Kiting means running away from an enemy while also quickly turning around to land auto attacks to keep up some DPS. Using Condemn and Vault as well can make this much easier, as it gives you some space between the champion. Vayne also usually builds items with a lot of movement speed, which makes running around even easier. Thank you for watching our Season 6 Patch 5.23 Vayne guide. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video. We're going to be bringing out many more League of Legends guides as the time goes on, so look out for those, probably at least one a day, so by subscribing you'll make sure that you guys get to see those. A well-mastered Vayne can easily single-handedly carry games. By mastering Vayne, you can climb Elo rather easily, especially if you're duoed with a strong support. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next guide.